I woke up very unhappy, very scared, just very scary, scared, really scared. Was I really scared? Yes. I had like weird feelings in the pit of my stomach before it even started. I'm scared.
I want to tell you a secret. Psst. I'm so happy to be back in the studio with my boys. I'm also feeling kind of like extra radiant today. Me and my new tattoo are shining, baby. That's right. Oh, that's it. The bad boys of horror are back like we never left for the 25th ever episode of Two Men and a Baby, a horror movie review show where three best friends discuss a new horror movie each episode. And it really is good to be back. So yeah, we're covering a classic, 1980s The Shining, co-written and directed by none other than Stanley Kubrick, and starring Jack Nicholson and Shelley Duvall. I'm your red-headed, getting your girl's bed sweating host with the...
Can I put my resignation in, please?
Host with the most, Will Dubs. And as usual, I'm joined to my right by musician and fellow horror historian Brendan Fletcher.
Here's Brendan.
Oh. And to my left by comedian and titular baby Abby Krinsky. Let's pop. Hit that theme song, B.
Pop it.
2 men and a baby. Oh yeah. 2 men and a motherfucking baby.
2 men and a motherfucking baby.
All right, we got a Knicks game to watch, so let's jump right into that schedule of scares. Our itinerary scary, if you may. But before we dive in, let's talk about what was actually a pretty special family viewing experience that we had yesterday.
Yeah, we hit it. We went to Brendan's stomping grounds. We finally made it out
The
there. legendary Clifton Commons.
Mm-hmm. Clifton Commons.
The Overlook Commons.
Where dreams are made, and we went to the Applebee's right across the street.
We ate good in the neighborhood as a family.
I'm going to put it this way. I'll be returning to Applebee's, and I'll be a patron of Clifton Commons Applebee's.
Applebee's is what? Like
Brendan actually put in an application there.
Put in an app to the app.
You know how they're like menu hacks? I'm pretty sure if you spend enough time looking at each individual deal, you could have 10 drinks and 10 combined apps and entrees for like $50.
Yeah, that was a crazy deal. It was probably the most us thing that ever could have happened. I got 2 entrees. Dubs got 9 to 10 drinks, and Brendan lost his phone. So we really hit the trifecta immediately.
My literal first round was a margarita flight. That was $14, which is less than a margarita costs.
2 sips into his margarita flight, Dubs is already scanning the bar for other cocktails.
Yeah.
He's like, what's that?
There's like a mom. They're regulars. They're Applebee's
I didn't
regulars.
scope them out. They scoped us out.
There's 2 Applebee's regulars. A woman that I would guess is like in her early 50s, and then her mom, who I would guess is in her mid 70s.
She's either
that was a mom and daughter. I thought they were both old ladies.
No, they were definitely a mom and daughter.
I think they were friends.
Abby, they were the same age.
And I think they were actually...
It was just one got closer to us, and you saw her more...
I understand perspective.
Yeah.
I think that
and
one was really tall.
Yeah. And the weird thing is, I think they were like 27 years old.
Yeah, Will at one point was like, imagine being a regular here, and then a guy walks in, a new bartender, and they go, Jose, what's up? They definitely knew everybody.
Applebee's is a place you go fresh out of prison if you want a cocktail.
Every single one of my drinks had some extravagant flair.
Well, you made sure of that.
Yeah.
And you made sure everyone knew it.
But I went to bed early last night so that I was all rested up for this episode.
Wow, what a guy. Also, when I ordered my burger, the guy said, I've never heard this before. He goes, the normal questions. He's like, oh, you want cheese on it? Oh, fries. And then he goes, you want pink? And I was like, what? He's like, you want pink? And I was like, what are you saying? And he's like, and I'm realizing that at Applebee's, and it's not the fault of this server. It is clearly the fault of the horrible patrons that go there that scream because they don't understand what rare or medium rare is, that they have to say, do you want your burger? They're just doing a color palette rule. They're
it really is
do
crazy.
You want your
They're
burger
trained.
pink?
They're trained to like dumb down the dining experience.
Yeah. It was a good time.
So those 2 ladies had these big red goblets that I noticed they were pouring blue They had a blue test tube they were pouring stuff into.
You know,
and
the fucking beginning of 28 Days Later, like, boom, let's fill around with this concoction.
And I asked them what it was, and I couldn't even really hear them. But I
They
ended
just
up
kept yelling vodka. And we were like, no, we understand that. What else is there?
It was really
Yeah,
just
like-
vodka cranberry.
Right.
mix,
But
yeah.
then Brendan knew exactly the name of
Well,
the
I like to,
holiday
guys, before I go
themed-
to restaurants, I like to look up the signature cocktails, all right? And they
And
had
he throws his phone somewhere.
Yeah.
I got to say, also,
He's a
Monty
bartender,
sticks.
too.
Yeah.
Not as good as AMC's Monty sticks, but they were solid.
Will is a Monty
But
stick
I think
connoisseur.
and hopefully we can snip this in. Abby's the editing genius. We took a couple of selfies, and by the last one, the women across were so drunk. She was like, "What did she say? Can I get in there?
Can I
or
get in
something?"
there?
Yeah. And so the four of us took a family photo before
Hilarious.
walking over to the AMC Clifton Commons for an IMAX viewing.
45th anniversary of The Shining. They tossed that bad boy remastered in the IMAX theaters. And I thought, this is me being like living in Brooklyn too long. I was just like, oh, we're going to suburban New Jersey. Like, it'll be dead. The tickets sold fast
packed.
and it was packed. And it's huge IMAX.
There were seats that didn't fill, which was weird.
I was under the impression that IMAX was not unlike a planetarium type.
Oh, you thought it was gonna be like 180
I thought it was
or
fully
270
immersive. I thought
degree?
you're looking up.
That's
You know?
screen
It's just
X,
a
baby.
big,
But it's just a big ass
It's
screen.
just huge. And it's crazy sound.
and it
great.
wasn't at like a different aspect ratio. Like they actually pulled in the
Yeah,
ends of
yeah,
the
'cause it's
wide
4:3
screen. Yeah,
old
yeah.
ass
So it was in the
flick.
same aspect ratio. But anyway, we're going to talk about every type of ratio and aspect of this
Hey.
movie. But before that, the way we tend to kick off this Itiner Scary is with our synopsis, where we each give our own synopsis of the film in one sentence only before reading the official Rotten Tomatoes synopsis for contrast. What have you gentlemen cooked up? Who wants to go first?
Oh, we know who goes first.
I'll go first.
Sammy synopsis over here.
Sammy synopsis out of retirement.
Ready? This is my synopsis. After being hired as the winter caretaker of a hotel with a sordid past, Jack Torrance, with family in tow, descends into madness after realizing not all of the guests have checked out in time for the off-season.
Hey, you can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave. I always thought that lyric was somehow related to The Shining.
Yeah, that
Brendan,
lyric
you're
always
getting-
creeped me out.
Yeah.
You're getting so good at this that I make sure that as you read yours, I'm looking at the official because
yeah.
you're getting more and more overlap.
Oh,
I've know
yeah.
you didn't look at it,
Appreciate
but that's how like you do write it in the vein of a professional synopsis.
yeah. I appreciate that, dude.
All right, here's mine. Delirium tremens has never been framed so gorgeously.
Tremens?
Yeah, it's like
Roger Tremens?
delirium tremens is like when you hallucinate when going through withdrawals.
What?
Alcohol withdrawals.
I've never heard of that.
Actually, you know what?
It makes sense. You guys would know about that.
That's good. I
Delirium
like that.
tremens has never been framed so affectionately. I like that better.
All right, we're doing live edits.
Yeah.
Live
Delirium
edit.
Tremens sounds like a character from like Dune.
Wait,
Abby
All
hit
right.
us with those 4
Wait,
words.
also real quick, I wore this shirt. Shout out Old Band High Falls, Colin, but also doesn't it have a bit of a Shining vibe to it?
Dude, that's
like-
very Timberline
yeah.
Lodge.
Wait, that also
Wait,
gives off the swag of the kid who was absolutely
Dude, that kid was
vibed
swagged out.
up,
That
dude.
kid, Danny, was dressed like he's headlining Baby's All Right tomorrow.
Dude,
That
and the
was-
way
dude,
the
can I
movie
get one of
was
those shirts? Do you have an
framed.
extra one?
I'll ask. Colin, do you have an extra shirt? Okay, my synopsis is don't get sober and then go to a haunted hotel with your family.
Love it.
That's very similar. All right, here's the official Jack Torrance, Jack Nicholson, becomes winter caretaker at the isolated Overlook Hotel in Colorado, hoping to cure his writer's block. He settles in along with his wife, Wendy, Shelley Duvall, and his son, Danny Lloyd. Whoa, that's crazy. Same name.
Yeah.
Who is plagued by psychic premonitions. That's 2 of the 3 stars have the same name as their characters. As Jack's writing
Kubrick's
goes...
casting director is a very literal person.
Kubrick actually directed the movie as himself. I did not think you were
Well,
going to
man,
laugh at
funny.
that. As Jack's writing goes nowhere and Danny's visions become more disturbing, Jack discovers the hotel's dark secrets and begins to unravel into a homicidal maniac hell-bent on terrorizing his family. Brendan's was way better.
Thanks,
Yeah.
dude. Appreciate it.
You know, before we get into the very, very personal and intimate details of the film, this podcast is called 2 Men and a Baby. And right here, right now, we got a baby, which is exactly why we start the segment right now called Baby in the Corner.
Was he sucking on a binky? Did he do a stinky? Did he pull his head brown low? Did he fake a family emergency so he could get out of the show? Well, yes, he is a baby. I don't mean maybe, but I've never seen him wrong. Except that time he covered his eyes before the previews had begun.
Baby in the Corner. So yeah, this movie, this was not the first time I had seen it, but I was surprised at how little I remembered from.
Do you want to explain the segment?
Yeah, it's called The Shining.
No, Baby
Stanley
in the Corner
Kubrick movie.
Where Abby, the resident infant, tells you how scary the movie is.
Yeah, I was less scared going into it because I've seen it before, and it's beautiful. There's something about like it. I was like pumped. I was with my boys. We hit up the Applebees. We were chilling. And then, but I do remember the first time I saw it, it being one of the most fucked up I've ever been, like long term. Because I think this movie, and we'll talk about it more in the spoiler room. This movie is like the epitome of it still has it all. Like there are fucking jump scares, there's gore. It has it all, but it's by far not a movie that you're just like throughout the thing like, oh fuck, I want to rip my skin off the way that Talk to Me or Conjuring is.
Can I something that when I was like reading about it last night that I hadn't even really noticed, it does have everything except darkness.
Ooh.
It is so scary, and there's
Very
no
well lit, yeah.
There's no
'cause
dark.
they're in the hotel, yeah.
There's no suspense created out of darkness in this
That
movie.
is such a good
and
point.
it's so hard
Yeah,
to do that.
I think that's what that gives it that dream-like
Yep.
quality.
Yeah,
because
wow.
it's all these horrific things are happening in broad daylight, happening in well-lit rooms.
The big one I remember thinking, obviously much after this, is Midsummer. You know, that's one of the big plots of that horror movie pulls off being horror with daylight the whole time. But that's a really good point. And actually, when they run outside, he flicks on the lights and they all turn on outside. So you don't even have that moment. That's a really good point. So, and I think that exactly adds to the point I'm making, which is like during it's scary for sure, but not in our top, I would say, 30-40% of movies we've seen in terms of, again, like me just being in such pain, checking my watch, when are we done? But this movie really does that second part, which is how much does it stick with you? Because some of the movies, you know, I've been exposed to through this podcast really fuck you up during it. And then surprisingly, like, I sleep like a baby. I just don't think about it again. Versus, like, this really sticks with you. And even watching it, like, the second time, this really sticks with you. This is, like, the movie where you're just like, cool, I'm home alone. It's quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, the lights maybe even on. And you're just like, oh, fuck, what is happening? I also, like, so for me, I've talked about it, and I think this probably relates to a lot of you babies out there. It's like, there's a dark, bright, scary thing. This doesn't do that. There's the quiet, loud. This does do that. This has some jump scares for sure. Towards the end, had way more jump scares than I had remembered. I was very surprised, and I got very scared, even though I thought I was chilling. But this has one of my biggest fears ever, which is like going insane, losing track of your mind. I think a lot of us have fragile relationships with our sanity sometimes, and like especially after doing like enough psychedelic drugs and sometimes too many throughout my life, I felt like close to being like, oh, what if I lose connection to reality? And then this is watching a man have that happen.
They set it up to the premise within the first, after the intro shots, just the idea of being in a place for 5 months, alone, isolation. Also, like quitting drinking.
Right.
Abby, Brendan, did you want to say? I have a couple of
what's so brilliant about Kubrick? Is it Kubrick or Kubrick?
Kubrick.
Is
whatever.
how I say it.
Kubrick, what he is able to accomplish here is that through a million different techniques that we can get into, he actually makes you feel as the viewer that you're kind of going a little insane.
Yeah.
Like he plays with the set design. He'll take things out. He'll add things in the same shot. And you're like, okay, this is different.
Ooh,
like,
I didn't notice that.
There's a million
I just learned
examples. We can talk about in the spoiler room, but that's something I want to put a pin in.
I don't think that's really a spoil. Like the color of the typewriter changes.
Yeah, color of the typewriter changes. Chairs in the background of a shot are taken in, added. When they walk into the pantry, the hallway is different than when they exit the pantry. Now, obviously, you could say it's a different. There's 2 doors, whatever. But it's jarring.
Yeah, well,
like the actual architecture of the building itself there are rooms that it feel out of place just based on the other surrounding hallways and stuff. It's just the hotel itself, it becomes a character that's almost like a lava lamp. It's ever changing and it's manipulating our perceptions as viewers. It becomes jarring and
The Overlook
disorienting.
is definitely a character, but one last fact about that is it's been attempted. It is impossible with a professional architect could not recreate the layout of the hotel as it is portrayed with chronological editing in
I
the
saw
film.
that. I think there was a video game programmer. Yeah.
A game architect.
It's kind of like the Seinfeld. Have you seen the thing where Seinfeld,
But-
the architecture in the Seinfeld apartment doesn't make sense? But,
Oh,
wanna
I
hear-
got you.
I-
Yeah,
but
yeah,
that's
yeah.
not on purpose.
Yeah.
So
This is to make
I
you
know
think you're
Brendan's
crazy.
going to have a bunch of fledged facts. Here's the one Dub's detail I have about this. So there's two presiding theories about some of these things. It is Kubrick messing with you and doing a lot of these things so intentionally. He is so intentional the way he films. But also, apparently during the filming of Eyes Wide Shut, Tom Cruise said he would catch, this is like what, 15 years later, 20 years later?
Yeah, it's 8 and 8, Like,
He would catch Kubrick continuing to edit
Yeah.
The Shining.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I still haven't made the perfect version
Yeah.
of this movie. Follow-up question for your scariness. You said during it wasn't that scary. Do you think that's the movie, or do you think it's a second viewing, desensitization, or all of them? And also B, how much do you think the IMAX experience changed or altered?
Yeah.
this is only the second time you've seen it?
I think so. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I would say it's a good question. I would say that having seen something even once, even half-assed, changes everything for me, because the fear of the unknown, as we've always talked about, is the biggest fear there is.
Yeah.
So I think it's sort of hard to go one-to-one. Also, fucking theater's a whole different world, dude. Even the screening room, as dark as it gets, the theater is such a different world, and I think it's almost like really hard to compare because it's so much scarier in theater. I just think
Really?
that's a general realization I'm
think,
having. 'Cause
like, I
I'm
agree,
I'm
yeah.
so invested. There's
Yeah.
just no escape. There's no joke I can make out loud to calm my nerves. There's
Oh,
no
yeah.
bathroom break. It's just happening at you.
Yeah, I agree. Like I was kind of skeptical, like, oh, how is The Shining going to translate into the IMAX viewing experience? And I felt that it was extremely effective because you have this old like movie, the aesthetics older, and then you pair it with like this giant immersive viewing experience. And I think it was intended to be so immersive. You feel like you're walking through the hotel. Like the Steadicam shots, for example. This is
Yeah.
one of the first movies to use Steadicam.
Yeah. And boy, does it use it. It's
Yeah, and
wild.
it feels like you're stalking
Yeah.
the characters as we move through the hallways of the Overlook. And I felt like that sense became more effective
Yeah,
with the
that's
giant screen. And it just,
We'll talk a lot about the cinematography in the spoiler room, but like
Yeah.
the cinematography is A, some of the greatest ever done, and B, like really shined in IMAX.
The only from a fear factor perspective, the one thing that really got me was just the music and the score
So
being
loud and-
so
yeah.
loud and aggressive, and more than I remembered.
Weirdly enough, there's something about cinematography, as important as it is to storytelling, and it's like some of my favorite shit because of my background in camera stuff. It actually is another sort of defense mechanism. Sometimes beautiful cinematography can allow me to be a little less scared because I can go, ooh, that's pretty cool. So I think there's a bit of that defense mechanism I did here. But I think the IMAX did add to it. Just, again, I think more the theater. Theater added to the fear for sure. But the first time I saw it, I was definitely more scared in it. Both times, the aftermath is crazy. I had some fucked up dreams last night. So
Really?
Yeah. I mean, just
Jealous,
again, just
dude.
losing your mind type of shit. But I also thought isolation was interesting in this, and we'll talk about that theme. It's funny to see the same location. So like Conjuring, that's a haunted house, right? That house is scary from the get-go. It was so cool how this movie starts, and you're in this place, and all these people are there, and it's fucking not scary at all.
It's beautiful. I was like,
Yeah.
dude,
I
that
wanna
would be
stay
the
there.
best. Yeah.
And then they do, which us babies fucking hate, I gotta say, just 1 month later. They jump 1 month later, all of a sudden, I hate that. I'm like, no, I need slow build, like, allows me to feel in control. The 1 month later really takes you out of control, which is a classic baby fear.
so
And,
well done
yeah.
because it cuts right to a bright scene.
Yeah, no, it's bright out.
But you're like, everything's about to get worse.
Everybody's gone, and I
He's
love that,
just
too.
telling you, black and white text, it's fucking
Yeah, and
great.
it doesn't go right to snow or anything. It's
Yeah.
just like still nice out there, but it's the beginning. So I thought that's very cool. And then I think, the big question here, but it definitely scares me a lot, which added to my numbers here, is just like the classic play on supernatural, what's real, what's supernatural, what's real, and that goes hand in hand with the sanity stuff. So it was just a killer scary movie. The final fun little joke here that I remember really got to me last time, in like main character syndrome, the room, the scary room, 237. Stubbs probably knows I grew up in 237 2nd Street, and so 237 has always been my home number.
Wait, I kind of interject a fletch fact here.
Yeah.
So the original room in the book is 217, and that's my address.
Whoa.
Currently. But
you're the book on the movie, dude.
So that's funny. But the Timberline Lodge, where they filmed the movie, they decided to change it from 217 to 237 because the lodge doesn't have a room 237 because they were worried that people wouldn't
never
book
want to
that
stay
room.
there.
Yeah. Which
Yeah.
is so.
Or they didn't
I mean,
have a 217.
They didn't have a 237, so they
they
changed
wanted-
it.
they didn't want
because
to
they didn't
create
want
a
to.
fear.
Yeah, because
Okay.
217 they actually had, and they were like, we want people to check into that room, which is so stupid. They made millions of dollars if they
Right.
if they just kept it 217.
So the one thing that changes is 1 or 3, but in high school I wore number 2 and I wore number 7. So we all got
Dude, this is
little-
This is
that's
actually
like the movie.
bull-
The
this
number,
is crazy.
the number 23. Jim
Yeah, this is
Carrey.
blowing my mind.
Okay, so
But also, I mean, 42 is a big number in this movie.
Jackie
and
Robinson.
2 times 3 times 7
It's
is
about
42.
This is what the movie's about.
my number, speaking of which, I'm going to give this movie on the fear factor scale. I'm going to give it an 8.2.
Nice.
We call that the
beautiful.
Binkymeter.
Binkymeter. I would say if you wanted to really break down the math, I'd say it's a 7.5 live and a 9.5 long term.
I would wonder how you and I, because we don't get scared, if we tried to rate how scary, where would you put the genre?
Yeah. How
Well,
does this
I'll be honest
compare
with you.
to a
Like
jumpier,
I've seen this movie
So
this
many
is probably like the
times.
13th time I've seen it.
Yeah.
So like watching it in theater, this first time I've ever seen it in theaters, it was. Like I still got chills on
All right.
and
I like to hear that.
And like there were scenes where, again, like after you've seen a horror movie that you love, and you know the scene's coming, but even when the scene is playing, you smile because you're like, damn, this is such a fucking great movie. Like the blood coming out of the elevator. Like every time I see that, I'm like, we're watching art. Like, not to get too like fucking heady here, but Kubrick is a fucking artist, dude. He's a genius, and it's on full display here. Yeah,
This is the way to get down to where we can really talk about it. And it's time to get on down, James Brown clip, get
Yeah.
on down
To
to the... Spoiler. I think Brendan made a song for this.
get on down. We should call it Spoiler Town.
Sing it, dude.
Here it goes. I'm gonna make one, and we're gonna insert it here.
All right, so we're in the spoiler room. We're ready to kick things off. I think we've already touched on this, and everybody wants to talk about it. So I think a good place to start is with the framing, the cinematography, the way this movie is shot. I would say, just like The Hotel, the camera is very much a character in this movie. You guys have things I feel like you're already itching to say, so.
Yeah, I mean, I would say I want to hear some facts. I want to hear some trivia. But the main ones that stuck out to me is obviously the opening shot, one of the craziest like helicopter shots I've ever fucking seen in my whole life. And Dubs, I think
I have a funny bit. Yeah, so literally the movie just fucking starts and I lean over because I'm already in awe, just like so excited.
And
After
an IMAX,
Applebee,
too,
I'm
to see
riding
that.
the high of Applebee's.
And your 9
Yeah.
margaritas.
And I lean over to Brendan and I'm like, all right, so obviously there's no drones. Like, how did they? And he goes, don't you fucking even. I got a fledge fact about this. And then he goes, it's a helicopter. And I was like,
well,
all
that's
right.
one of a couple of things.
Well, I mean, I was like, because I was thinking like small aircraft helicopter,
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
just couldn't believe
It was a
that
drone
any
from 2025. Dude.
any helicopter could even get that close. It gets so
Yeah,
close to the
super
car.
low. Hear about
So
it.
I mean, it's again like Kubrick is such a obsessive, like in my opinion, he's a genius, and he is a perfectionist. And this movie starts in a way that has been, copied and paid homage to in a bunch of different things, like the title card where the blue the blue text, The Shining comes up.
I just want to say real quick with the text. It's of a time. Most of this movie doesn't feel dated. That's why it's so good. It
Right.
just holds up. Everything is so good. That text and color are just since then, because they were so influential, are sort of the default of iMovie text sometimes.
Oh, yeah,
and so I
interesting.
actually thought it was like a little bit silly looking.
Well, it's
the
funny
text, but-
because in Get Out, it's the same exact title card.
Interesting.
Blue, the same hue
Yeah, like a
of
baby
blue.
blue robin's egg.
But anyway, so he, 9 hours of helicopter footage. He cut down to whatever the first 7 minutes of this film.
Oh.
But so the fun fact comes here: Ridley Scott, Blade Runner, he actually asked Kubrick to use some of the footage, the helicopter footage, at the end of Blade Runner.
No way.
Yeah.
Because Kubrick had so much
If
of
you
it.
look at the end of Blade Runner, there is helicopter footage
Of Colorado.
the credits roll. And if you watch Blade Runner in a certain aspect ratio, you can actually see the yellow beetle at the bottom of the screen.
No way.
Yeah. And Kubrick said you can use this as long as you don't use 1 second of the footage that I used in The Shining.
Right, which makes sense.
Which makes sense.
Yeah.
But he was a huge fan of Ridley Scott's.
That's
and
hilarious.
that was basically the fun
Speaking
fact.
of or yellow beetle, fun fact:
Yellow Submarine by the Beatles.
as a jab to King,
I like this
there is a derelict or like destroyed red
so
beetle.
when Dick Halloran is driving up to rescue the
chef.
family, there's a traffic cone set up on the street, and you can see a red beetle.
Oh, that's
it's
like
got an
crushed by-
accident.
yeah,
So the
by
red
the
beetle,
truck.
the beetle's red in the book, and it was Kubrick's way of saying, I'm taking my own direction here and my own interpretation from the book.
Wow.
And so it was
which
like,
we'll talk obviously about
So-
the Stephen King
Yeah.
Kubrick beef, which is pretty exciting. But okay, so that's very cool. So that's just the opening shot. The other shots that jump to me, there's the blood spilling, which they cut to a few times. That is like insane. I'm so curious how they did that.
Yeah.
That was so cool. The tricycle shots, which you already talked about, Steadicam running behind him. That was really cool because that's not only just interesting, beautiful, but it was very much that's scary. That's a character because what the fuck is going to be around each turn? And that is like super scary. As a baby, I did not like those as cool as it was.
The elevator scene, real quick. So Kubrick took so many takes. He was, again, a perfectionist. The elevator shot, I believe they had 8 takes, but because it required so much cleanup
Right.
after every take that, there's so much work was involved to really capturing that. That shot took
They were actually using
over-
the cranberry
took
juice
over a
from an
year.
Applebee's
a
margarita.
reindeer
Yeah, what was
margarita.
the name of the reindeer?
A reindeer. So the whole filming process took about a year, or just over a year, and that shot was the longest to take, like spanning the entire production filming of.
Okay, so here are the two big things that I noticed too. When you've seen a movie like this many times, you don't have to think about the plot. You really get to like let everything else about the movie that you wouldn't have thought to pay extra attention to, you let it soak over you. So you're really looking at every little thing. So framing is so important, right? The first 2/3 of the movie, almost everything is framed. It is either tracking, zooming, or the Steadicam motion, whatever. But it's basically he picks a thing, a place, and every single one of them, even if it's a close-up of somebody's face between, it looks beautiful. So everything is like has to be hand-selected in terms of where mise en scène, right? The first time that I noticed it was at the very beginning, when he has his interview. The framing of the boss, he has a flag, he has a red tie on, he has a pen, and he's sitting at a desk with this beautiful window behind him, like the Oval Office, and he has Kennedy's hairstyle, lack of beard. It is very presidential if you look at it again.
I
that was the
I feel like
first
that's
one.
completely valid. Again, dude, this movie is like the maze itself in the movie. You can go down any which way, and you can find yourself in a labyrinth of theories and
that.
Easter eggs. And like, if you look, speaking of ties, if you look at Jack Nicklaus's tie in that meeting,
It's
it
stuck.
looks like the maze. It's
Oh, yeah,
green,
yeah.
the green fucking woven.
And it's
They
stuck in his
planned on
belt.
getting a tie that resembled the maze.
That's amazing.
That's amazing. Yeah.
All right, so here's my bigger one. That scene triggered my paying extra attention to framing and just how beautiful everything. It really does feel like a motion picture, like a moving painting that happens to tell a story.
24 pictures per second.
Until the third act begins, like the hell breaks loose moment. Shelley Duvall comes into the room with the bat, and they have a confrontation.
This is when she reads the.
Yeah, yes.
That scene is one of the best of all
So
time.
again-
And fun fact, real quick, Kubrick's secretary spent hours and hours and hours
Typing
Oh,
all
yeah.
those.
500 pages.
I
And
was
she
actually,
then murdered
Yeah,
her
yeah,
husband.
right.
I was gonna ask, like, Kubrick seems like the type of guy that just to get into it would type it himself just to say that he fucking did it.
Nah, he'd rather torture
But
someone else.
So most of the movie up to this point, he would frame a beautiful area in a location that doesn't change. Again, it would be a zoom in or a track, but most of the motion happened contained within a frame that was so well orchestrated. That is the first time in the movie, and now things have broken loose, and the chase of Jack and going after Shelley and the kid begins. And this is the first time that I noticed in the movie that there was clearly handheld cameras used, or Steadicams or dollies or whatever, where it now started following the motion in a very custom,
Yeah.
not
Yeah, and
Not
more of
zoom,
an
not tra-
abstract
Yeah.
way that
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
so linear.
And
Yeah,
here's what's crazy, and I wrote this down, is if you pay attention, you start to see when the camera is looking at Shelley Duvall, it's recoiling in a way that it feels like it's pushing her back as if she's running away from the camera. And when the camera looks at Jack Nicholson, it's the same thing.
Towards him.
It's following away from him like he is pushing the camera towards her. So the chase, it begins so literally through the visuals of Jack is in control. The chase has begun. It is going from him to her fear to her reaction, and everything follows in that
Yeah.
visual
And-
pattern. It was so well done, and the whole time, and it doesn't deviate at all until she hits him and he falls down the stairs.
Right, which is it's crazy. Like she has the high ground. That's the scene that famously was 127
Seven
takes,
takes, yeah.
and so I think we should talk about it for a second. So like this movie is a big deal in a lot of ways, and is horror gold and all this stuff. There's also been a more recent conversation about no one says a really like positive word about Kubrick as a guy besides like as a guy like personally. He's obviously a genius. He's made some of the greatest films of all time. Famously, like his most extreme is the abuse he had on set of Shelley Duvall in this movie, and a lot's been talked about. Just like he told no one in the crew to comfort her in between scenes. He made her do 127 fucking takes of that. He famously, when she was dragging Jack Nicholson, wouldn't help her. She couldn't do it, and he would not help her. And even Jack Nicholson has multiple times been on record like, I felt really bad. This seemed awful. Again, he's the czar on set. Like, no one's going to question it. Jack Nicholson, as big as he is, even then he was a big deal, but you don't question fucking Kubrick. So everyone just watched this abuse happen. She, one of the days, like, couldn't drag him even less than normal because supposedly, this is what a video I saw said, that because she had her period and she told him that, and he made a doctor go talk to her to be like, I don't believe you, like prove it, like some crazy.
Yeah, her hair fell out. A lot of her hair fell out,
and she
for sure.
all the way up until her death had serious mental health issues that people think were very
Well, yeah,
strongly
she didn't
exacerbated.
exactly have a takeoff career after this.
No, it's crazy. And obviously the argument on the other side is like he was abusing her to make her be this panicked, frightened character, to make her acting better. But this is like sort of one of the most famous examples of art. What's the line, of art and morality. And not that you have to take a stance on this, because at the end of the day, it is what it is. It's a great fucking movie, and Kubrick's really good. I do think what's funny is that he's abusing her to make this all happen. She's not like, it didn't quite work. I don't think she wasn't bad, but it wasn't like she carried this movie.
Well,
and I think you could argue that you should have casted someone that doesn't need 127 takes to be able to be a good.
But you could argue that the 127 takes, I bet he probably used a take that was close to 127. She looks exhausted.
Sure, but
swinging
that's
bat.
sort of a job of an actor and a job of a good director
Right,
is
but
to be able to
maybe
get that without physical abuse.
Maybe that's why he did it, though.
So you're saying the scene that had
I'm saying
more,
when she's swinging the
wasn't
bat,
even
crying,
in, though.
she looks exhausted.
No, I
emotionally and
agree.
physically. You could argue that he did it to get that
No,
shot.
that's the argument.
Yeah,
of course,
yeah,
that
which is
the
horrible.
argument.
But I'm
Yeah,
saying,
no,
like,
that's
Well,
definitely the
also,
argument.
also like not comforting her so that
Right.
she's more distraught.
She's more
but
distraught.
I did write down, is Shelley Duvall shit? Because I keep going back and forth between like,
I would say I thought she was better the second viewing
I
than
agree,
the first
dude.
one. I think it stuck with me, that ending where she's running a little weird, like didn't quite buy it when she's like in full panic, and it gets a little much. But again, she's losing her mind, and the character's losing her mind. So you can't judge it as, oh, I would have done this. It's like, yeah, how would you fucking be in this situation? The last thing I'll just say on the abuse point is like, so you look at like Apocalypse Now and Francis Ford Coppola, it's like he was abusive. He also was losing his own fucking mind on those things, and the performances he got out of him were even crazier. I mean, Jack Nicholson, I think, was like, this is one of the greatest performances of all time. Besides that, I didn't think That was
I thought
people
the
were that
first
crazy
half,
good.
I thought the first half, Jack Nicholson was a lot like Shelley Duvall in the sense that they wrote these. Like I was like, nobody talks like
Oh,
this.
interesting.
Like, hello,
Interesting. I didn't find that from him.
And Shelley Duvall's character, that's more important.
Can I transition real quick? So I want to talk about this a little bit. Book versus movie. You know, that's the big criticism. Stephen King hated this movie. And I think, as to your point with the red buggy, like, Kubrick wasn't trying to impress him either. He was like, fuck you, dude. I'm going to do my thing. One of the big things that Stephen King brought up, which I do think there's definitely some validity in, and I'm about 7 chapters into the book, so I can't pretend to have read the whole thing, but Shelley Duvall's character is a fully fleshed out human being in the book.
Yeah.
She is a accomplished, also a writer, a different style writer. She has...
Oh, what?
Yeah.
She's like the 50s housewife
Right,
in this
exactly.
It's very misogynistic portrayal of her,
exactly. And I thought one perfect example is in the book, she 100% also is like, oh, can I read your novel? But in the movie, because we don't have anything else about her besides her being like a housewife,
annoying, right?
it's a little annoying.
Yeah.
Whereas in the fucking book, it makes it clear she always used to read. She would help him when he wrote.
Right.
So that is
By
like
the way,
a
guys,
huge change.
Yeah, I feel
Abby is 7 chapters into the audiobook.
Yeah, he said that.
No, he wants
Started
to bring up
last
that I'm
time.
not
No,
reading
because
the
I'm
book.
like, oh, Abby put in work to fucking tearing through pages.
Okay, an audiobook for those of us with ADD, we're neurodivergent. That's how we read.
You and I were so like jacked up talking about the movie on the way home. You just send a text and you were like, chapter 1. I was like, oh, good for him. I am surprised how far you got.
Yeah, I stayed up late and I woke up early to keep fucking listening.
So you're really enjoying it.
Yeah.
Stephen King famously not liking this movie where he comes out and it almost sounds like he's getting paid to endorse fucking movies on Rotten Tomatoes or whatever. He hates this, but I think...
And Stephen King is a very cool guy. Almost the opposite of Kubrick, where he's prolific, he's one of the greats, but people love Stephen King. There's all these personal stories about what a good guy he is and how down-to-earth he is. Very different people, clearly.
I think a lot of it was reacting to Kubrick being a dick about it. Also, Kubrick... Again, he was like, this is mine. I don't need... He was like, thank you for writing a book that I'm going to build this story, but I'm going to make it so much better.
Right.
And
which is up to, the viewer.
Stephen King, he reserved the right to come up with the first script of The Shining, which he wrote. And then Kubrick basically threw it in the garbage. Later on,
I want to hear about what was in that script.
The 90s, Stephen King actually made a Shining. He made his own Shining movie. And exactly, it's shit,
absolute dog shit.
And it's like, Kubrick's not going to be held to an outline of what should be in it, should not be in it. He's going to tell his own story his own way. He's loosely using the basic foundation of the movie. It's not really a different story. The story's still there, but he's telling it in a way that
it's a bit different. Yeah. I think to your point, it's like, you should make a different story if you're making a movie from a book. It shouldn't be exact. And some of the greatest art, I think, is made by separation, by you did this, then you do this. So I think there's something beautiful to that. I do think some of Stephen King's criticisms are valid, just in that the biggest one that I was reading is that, and me and Will both said this when we got in the car after it, I didn't remember it as extreme. The first scene, Jack is an asshole.
Yeah. He's a weird guy.
Yeah,
that's
he is
what
never.
That's what I was going to say.
There's no saving the cat, which is a classic saying. Like, you take your protagonist, you have them save a cat in a tree. Right. Now the audience is on their side, and then the arc happens and they're changed. That never happens. He's always a dick. Obviously, he loses his fucking mind. In the book, it is a lot more about the story is of a man that is a good guy that is losing his shit due to sobriety, he's an alcoholic, and they talk about the alcohol.
That's what I was going to say. And if you look at other Kubrick movies, like, he doesn't do character development in a traditional way. Like, he rarely ever goes really deep into someone's backstory.
Yeah.
He lets the environments that they're placed in shape them.
Interesting. But like, the visual, like you said.
Nicholson, it's true. He's almost immediately comes off as unhinged and just like a weird guy
who hates his wife,
his wife and son immediately.
Yeah. Who has like a big chip on his shoulder, and instead of going and exploring his background like they do in the books, like Jack Torrance in the books, his father was abusive. His father had an alcohol problem.
Oh yeah.
He was beaten. He was abused by his dad, and he's fighting through that in the beginning pages of the book. You realize where his alcoholism comes from. Instead, this is just this guy, they've had some troubles in the past, and that's kind of the information we're going off of moving forward.
So this is a very brilliant and subtle way that Kubrick did actually characterize Jack that I didn't notice the first time, which I would argue makes it too subtle. But the story is that Jack hurts Danny accidentally because he was drinking.
Right.
And the blessing that came out of that was that he
Quit
didn't
drinking.
drink for 3 years.
Yeah.
Gets to the Overlook Hotel, and he says 5 miserable months
yeah.
on the wagon. So that means
He was
He's-
sneaking around.
he was drinking
Oh, I didn't catch the
undercover
3 years line
for
in the
2
movie.
years.
He says that in the movie 3
So
years.
that the
But I have a
implication
question.
is the only time he actually quit is when he got to a hotel that they made a point to say has literally no alcohol
Right.
for what is
Does
it?
Shelley Duvall, when she's speaking to the doctor and in rehashing that story, does she say 5 months?
No, she says 3 years.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay.
Oh, wow.
So
I
yeah,
didn't
so
catch that. That's
he's like,
super
I've been on the wagon for the 5 months.
So that is a good way to kind of really address his alcoholism more than just he hit his son once.
Right.
'cause
And that's
he
what you
was-
have to do in movies. You have to have like one line that
Yeah,
explains
yeah.
so much.
He
yeah.
also in the book he's with his friend drunk driving and they hit a bicycle on the way home and they never find a body, but
Right.
it's sort of implied they might have killed some fucking body.
Right, and it's also
And-
implied when he loses his job for assaulting a
Yeah.
student, which we covered in the movie. You're like, are all these things, and like alcoholics are unreliable narrators,
Right.
right? So like, if you say I lost my job for being violent or I did X
Yeah.
and Y, they're leaving the part out where I
He
could
is-
have been drunk.
He is sober in the book, by the way, when he does
Okay, got it.
abuse the kid. Another funny thing that I thought was interesting is like in this one, I remember thinking like, this motherfucker ever actually write anything? You know what I mean? Like in the book, it's very clear. Like, no, he is a real writer. Like he's a prestigious guy, and now he's losing his mind. But I think again, it works. Like the story that Kubrick is telling works, and you don't need all of that. So I thought that was.
I think that this is a perfect transition into what I think should be kind of the last thing that we talk about in the spoiler room, which is the component of what actually is real, what isn't real, what is The Shining, what's not The Shining.
Totally.
And what do you guys think about the ending? I'll just start with the ending. I came out of the movie and I was like, I don't want that last shot there. I think it's
Yeah, Will hates the last shot.
but I've come around since last
Yeah,
night.
because it's literally the last shot encapsulates everything that is
no.
that the movie it represents. It encapsulates the personification of the hotel and what the hotel achieves.
supernatural
and like
and
what's
what's
supernatural
yeah.
about the hotel. It's that we're
So-
all spokes in this wheel. Like Jack Torrance is a spoke in the wheel, just like Charles Grady is. And Charles Grady is not Delbert Grady, right?
Okay, somebody watched the video last night. But hold on. I still think that it is a better film if you end with his frozen face and scrolling credits there. I don't think you need that additional explanation, especially with, I think it was 4 zooms into his face. Like, how unsubtle could it possibly be? But ultimately, to me, it is a self-contained story about Jack Torrance's experience of the Overlook, not everybody else's. This family's experience, which is why I think, for me, I would have enjoyed it better if it ended there.
That stuck in my craw as well. And then I'll be honest, I did read into it because there were a lot of things in this movie that didn't line up, that were incongruous. Like the whole Charles Grady
Yeah.
in the 1970 killing his
Son
family.
hit us
And then he
with the
meets
incon-
Delbert Grady in 1921 in the bathroom, who's playing the butler. And he says, well, I was the caretaker. So
And then,
those things,
and then that guy says, "No, you were Jack
No, he
Nicholson. You
says-
were the caretaker the whole time."
yeah. So like,
Yeah, he
and that lines
and
up
he
with
goes,
the
I
picture.
know because I've been the butler.
Yeah,
the
yeah.
whole time.
So these things are like, I was like, well, I don't understand, like, because I always thought,
I just got
always
scared,
thought,
guys.
always
I
thought
just got goosebumps.
Delbert Grady was Charles Grady, but then I realized no, because he saw the newspaper article 1970, Delbert Grady 1921. So like,
But
they're
he
all-
is, though.
No, they're not the same person.
Yes, they. So
Well,
this.
well, they're
There's
not.
not
though,
clear
because
answers. There's
well,
not
yeah,
clear
yeah.
answers.
All right.
they're not
so-
clear answers, but that's what I like about it, is that this hotel has possessed this supernatural force that has existed for on that ground for thousands of years, and it's gonna be like that for another 1,000 years, and so it's like this cyclical, perpetuating like force that exists in this hotel, and that's what is represented by Grady. Because when it's explaining Charles Grady, he's like, yeah, he killed his daughters. One was 8, one was 12. Like
10, but-
yeah, but you see twins.
Yes,
right?
yeah, so-
and they're the same age. So maybe that was Delbert's children.
And twins.
So-
you guys remember that ad?
So the
Yeah,
presiding theory or explanation is that there's 2. One is I think King describes the hotel more as a place out of time where time
Right.
doesn't truly
Right,
exist.
right, yeah.
But Kubrick does. he says the ending is important because it explains that this is a place where like people live more than one life.
Yeah, exactly.
So Torrance was the caretaker.
Right, yeah, true.
The same way Delbert Grady was.
Reincarnated. They're reincarnated.
Yes,
the same spirit.
reincarnation.
Like, and you know what emphasizes that is
so
when
we're
he's in the bed.
agreeing,
When no, I agree with you. I'm saying it's like they're a spoke in a wheel, which goes round and round and round and round. When Jack Torrance goes to Wendy and he goes, the first time I walked in here, I had
like
deja
I've been
vu.
here.
It's
Yeah.
like I've been here before. It's like this guy is the Grady's, the Jack Torrance.
So this is-
who knows
this is-
before and after. It's all they're all
So
the
there
same
is something
person.
slightly different,
Yeah.
but Delbert Grady is the next iteration of the other Grady.
Charles Grady. And Charles Grady's the next iteration of
So
Jack Torrance. And Jack Torrance will whoever
Okay, so
follows him. Yeah,
I
yeah.
was confused when you said they're not the same person. I would consider reincarnation.
Well, they're not the same
I think-
person in the sense that the vehicle in which the
Got it.
spirit is manifesting itself
It's the
through
same guy
is
40
not the
years
same.
later
Yeah,
with
yeah.
a slightly
The
different
biggest thing,
Correct,
the biggest thing to me
I agree.
that I pointed, it's like I actually thought the ending was great because it still keeps things open.
Well, it makes us yell at each other,
Thing,
too.
thank God. The biggest thing to me that threw me from this movie, because the game of what is supernatural and what is psychological is the game. That's so fun,
right.
so interesting. The thing that threw me was Grady, according to the movie, let Jack out of the pantry. And that was the only time that there was physical, maybe the choking of Danny, but Danny could have been choked by Jack while he was losing his mind.
Yeah.
That is the only actual supernatural intervention. And that fucked me up because, I mean, maybe you could argue, maybe again, it's an unreliable narrator.
Well,
But
there's a
it's-
theory.
yes,
There
I
is a
wanna hear.
theory about it. So, like I said in the beginning, where the architectural qualities of this hotel are like incongruous, right? So, like when they walk into the pantry, the hallway is different. When they exit the pantry, they're in a different hallway. So that presumes that there's two entrances to that pantry. So she locks one door.
So maybe he just found a way out, but he thought it was
maybe that's
Grady.
his
Okay.
mental. He's manifesting Grady talking to him in his internal dialogue, but he's actually realizing she only locked one door,
Right.
the other door.
A fun fact about the ending, too, that was different from the book, because it goes hand in hand with the Stephen King thing where he wanted it to be more like this guy's good inherently, but he's losing to these forces, these outside forces. In the book, he saves Danny. In the book,
He rescues them. He rescues them. Yeah.
No, well, so he's the killer.
Wendy and-
He's killing. He's going to kill them, but he's fighting these demons, and he gets away from the demons long enough to let Danny get out, and then he dies from the
I thought it
boiler
was Dick.
explodes.
Doesn't Dick?
No, but point is that
Anyway.
Jack saves Danny.
So the theory that Jack Torrance is the one that's abusing his Danny, like he's reading a Playgirl magazine at one of the scenes. You look at the guy dressed up in the dog giving the blowjob
Yeah.
scene. That was like sort of a reference to this like abuse of Danny by his father. The Playgirl magazine, he's reading the edition. There's an article in there why parents sleep with their children, and the tennis ball scene. We think that that's Jack tossing it towards his kid. It's fucked up theory.
Wait, so
but anyway.
real quick, hold on. The pig or whatever, wolf, bear, whatever, blowing the guy. We were talking about that as well. Will, what did you take away from that again?
So I think this should go back to your last question. It was like, who's shining, who's not shining? Why does Shelley Duvall all of a sudden experience the hallucination of the skeleton?
Yeah, and she doesn't feel much, and then she's hitting them bang, bang,
Yeah,
bang.
and
at
none
the
of
end.
them
That's
are
scary as fuck.
like calling back to things like the previous caretaker or the room that we've heard about.
They're just the
It's
world
just
of the hotel's past.
So yeah, the skeletons, dunno. The pig, I thought it was a pig, and the only thing that I could make a connection to was that when he is axing down the door, he was
Which
like,
is right before that.
yeah, this little piggy is gonna, comes to
Go to
market,
market. Yeah,
whatever.
And he
but-
said this little piggy's gonna blow the house
Blow
down, and then it's a pig blowing someone.
Well,
That's it.
the book
Damn,
does cover
son,
it. They
are
said
you-
they had costume parties in the book, the big lavish costume parties, and that one of the attendees was bisexual, and that they would. So they do cover it in the book, but the way that he implements it, the Kubrick implements it in
very
the movie,
different,
it's very open ended.
Here's my question. Obviously, they explain The Shining because of Danny's powers. Tony, fun fact, his middle name is Anthony, so Tony, the imaginary friend that with which he, is getting his shining assistant. I personally think Jack shined too. The alcohol is a mechanism, and the hotel, the alcohol is a thing that the withdrawals, like, I guess, are exacerbating or whatever. So maybe he's not shining, but he obviously is seeing stuff.
Is Tony like
or re-experiencing
what I
stuff.
wasn't sure is like, so we know for a fact that Chef Dick
is a
shiner, but he seemed to react to Tony a little weird. Like it was like when he found out Tony, he was like, does Tony ever tell you not to tell your parents other things? Almost made me feel like Tony might not just be the manifestation of The Shining. It might be something additional, like some demon or something like.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Yeah.
I like in the book, Tony is like the teenage version of Danny, who is the manifestation of like his inner
and there's
experience.
No finger talking in the book, at least to where I am.
The finger thing, Danny Lloyd, the actor that plays Danny Torrance, is he auditioned with the finger. He created that. That little boy created the voice and the finger. And the finger. And Kubrick's like, oh, that's amazing. And by the way, Danny Lloyd didn't know, the actor played Danny Torrance, didn't know they were making a horror movie.
Good.
Kubrick was like, this is just a family drama or something. And so that was all from the mind of this little boy,
crazy.
and it's phenomenal. Yeah.
So I just thought that Tony was, the reason he asked that question was to kind of confirm that he hadn't let his parents know about Shining, because he explains, he said if his grandma never told him, he said some people can do it and they know they can do it, they're strong. Some people can do it and never realize they're doing it, and then other people can't.
But you know where the Shining movie title comes from? Where Stephen King, he was inspired by Instant Karma, John Lennon.
Yes.
Shine on. That song?
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. The only scene I want at the end of after all this is then when they go back to the hotel owner and they're like, so it happened again.
Well, actually,
So the weird thing is that this thing keeps happening.
Yeah. I think it might cost a little less to just let the boiler explode over the fucking winter and then we rebuild it.
We got to
in the
vet
summer.
our caretakers a little more because they keep killing their families.
Yeah.
Fun fact about the maze, Kubrick was like, this maze is not even that confusing. And then he tried it out. He got lost.
That's amazing.
And then the camera crew got lost. Imagine Kubrick already takes a long time filming, and then getting lost on top of that.
Also,
dude,
Kubrick's such a dick. He definitely gets found at the end, and they're like, "Yeah, dude, we told you to get lost." And then he like somehow would turn it around and be like, "No, it's your guys' fault. You should have made it better."
Oh, I actually meant to get lost.
Yeah. The last thing I want to say is the cinematography. I meant to mention this before. The scene where she finds what he was typing, all work and no plays makes Jack a dull boy, is one of the greatest scenes of all time ever. It's so good. She's freaking out about it. Those shots are so scary. He comes out, he peeks out. That's a slider shot to your point. It slides over to the left, and it's very different.
Of the camera emerges.
Exactly. And then I remembered all that. So influential, so scary. I have goosebumps right now. But I forgot about the fucking line. His first line, he goes, "You like it?"
Oh,
That's a fucking amazing line. She
Dude,
found his fucking jumble, and he goes, did you like it?
So I went from, to go back to the acting thing, I went from hating both of their way they delivered lines and talked to hating only hers, because his character has such an
Or he says, how do you like it?
Before we drop into our various scores, Abby's favorite segment that we jump into right before the end of the show is called Medicare at Best, inspired by our favorite shitty review submitted by a normal person on the internet.
We should find who that person is. That's our real goal of this podcast in the next 10 years.
True.
So before we get into Rotten Tomato, we like to look at some of the worst user-submitted reviews where somebody once tried to say the movie was mediocre at best, and it was Medicare. All right. So, frankly, a lot of the negative reviews, I scrolled for a long time to get just these. Most of them are just people who are like fucking nerds, love the book, and they're like, they changed too much. Anyway, 0.5 stars. I watched this before reading the book, and I hated it. After reading the book, I hated it more.
Great.
1 star. I didn't like it. Movie is too long and too boring, and why the hell would somebody live in a place like that?
Oh my God.
Person that's
Another
never worked
1
a shitty
star.
job in their life.
right.
Again, these are like not that funny.
Would
This
love that
might have
job.
been a great movie back in the day, but it aged horribly. What a bore fest. The part that amused me is bore fest. Like something can be a snooze fest or a bore. It's never a bore fest.
Dude, Boarfest is what you go to in Germany.
You have sex with boars.
All right. This is the most obscene one. 0.5 star. This is without a doubt one of the worst movies I have ever seen. Nicholson chews the scenery, spits it out, and then chews it again. not scary or entertaining in any way.
Choose the
Choose it?
scenery.
Choose it.
Yeah, I've never heard that saying. Like the scenery's
sounds like
beautiful,
a-
and then Nicholson takes it in and ruins it. Is I guess. the
It
idea?
sounds like a compliment.
Yeah,
almost.
right. That's
But-
Yo, he ate.
yeah,
Yeah.
I've also been calling him Nicholas. I think like 50% of the
yeah,
podcast.
he's cooking.
All right, but this was my favorite part. And this is what I was laughing at before. So we're going to flip this segment on its head. This one is 5 stars. Ain't no way this shit rated worse than Pee-wee's Big Holiday, bruh. Skull emoji, skull emoji, skull emoji, crying emoji, crying emoji.
That's troll. That's troll. It's troll shit.
No,
Troll
5
shit.
stars. And it's ain't no way TS this shit. Right? But I mean, he's got a good point.
That Pee Wee's rated
Oh,
high.
I
Now you're
might
giving
I
it away.
might have
Yeah,
just
you spoiled it. That's all right.
But this guy loved the movie so much, and now we have to watch Pee-wee's Big Holiday because clearly that's got to be sitting close.
All right.
To
Let's
period.
go.
Let's go
Rotten
scores.
Tomatoes,
All right.
baby. Let's
Rotten
hear that
Tomato,
song,
where we-
Brendan.
Hit it.
You are about to find out if we really know what we're talking about. Are we frauds or are we connoisseurs? Here come our Rotten Tomato scores.
All right, so we're
Going to estimate the tomato meter, which I have to say out loud because nobody understood that before. Rotten Tomato, boys, go. Critic first,
Yeah.
audience.
All right, so critic-wise, it's one of the greatest movies of all time. As we've talked about, older movies tend to lower a little bit because people love to have some hot takes. So I'm going to say, critics-wise, this is going to be an 84. That's my guess.
I'm going to say critic score 95.
Ooh,
It was so hard for
difference.
me not to react. On the nose.
84 on the nose?
I was surprised by
sorry.
that. Was so crazy. I was like, the heat.
Well, because it should be like
I
closer
was
to
like, he's shining me
it
right
should-
now,
I,
dude.
I am losing my mind. Yeah, it should be closer to a 95, I think. But I just think there's so much
Yeah,
time.
yeah, it's so much
and
time, yeah.
And the book, there's a lot of critics.
It's probably the most reviewed movie
But we
of all
talk
time,
about
yeah.
this. Usually, time ends up drowning down
Popcorn
the
more.
audience,
Yeah.
and up
Right.
the critics.
No, but I think.
You're showing your hand here a little bit with that statement.
critic.
Well, no, I just meant
No,
that
that's not.
I think critic wise, the probably if we went through it, the 16% that is below 100 are all coming from like I'm a critic and I read the book.
yeah.
I'm a critic and I love Stephen King,
Sure,
and that's
sure,
the
sure.
complaint. Okay,
well,
popcorn.
it could have been that also
Critics
when it
stink,
came
dude.
out, it didn't.
It didn't do well.
I
right?
I don't know.
No, it
So
didn't.
that was
It
a
didn't.
fun fact about the Blair Witch is like, or The Exorcist. There was like a re-release and a resurgence of modern reviews,
Cult.
which drove it up.
Yeah.
So this could be untouched.
Okay,
Anyway,
popcorn baby.
audience.
I'm gonna say audience. Audience is gonna be low. It's too. We heard the Medicare at best. We know what's going down. I'm gonna say audience for this one is so it's 84 critic. I'm gonna say audience is a 70.
You think
flat.
it's lower than the critic?
Oh, for sure.
Oh, no.
Audience are haters, babaters,
No,
banana
no,
fan.
no.
Also, what Will was saying, which we have found has been true and thematically, the longer it's out,
is that what
the
you're saying?
more audience goes
Oh,
down.
okay, so he
usually.
was kind of.
But he could be, he could be. but
Shit,
that's
dude.
just-
I
Playing
don't know.
some mind
went
games.
70.
with
I'm
you
just gonna
boys?
go. I'm just gonna go what I feel.
Yeah.
I'm gonna double down 95.
All right. Well, that was really close. So this goes against all of my theories about everything. It's 93, baby.
Audience?
93 audience.
Wow.
So this is the opposite effect that I would expect, which is why
Coming correct, because with disrespect, because you already know I'm gonna bust that neck.
Oh.
like Danny's little
Yeah,
sword.
I'ma choke 'em.
I mean, I would think that the audience would go low because everybody's like, Shiny's greatest movie ever
Yeah.
made, greatest work. And then you see it, there's going to be a lot of people that are
Haters.
just like, it does make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
dude,
no,
he-
most of the negative reviews are smart people that read the book and were frustrated.
Wow.
If you're curious, which you're not, IMDb score 8.4, one of the highest I've seen.
We're not. Let's go.
So what are y'all's scores?
All
I'm
right.
going to just throw mine out here so we can get the fuck out of here. Watch the Knicks. 9.5 Duval Dentals.
Wow.
She's got crazy teeth. 9.5. This was my probably favorite viewing of this movie, and I already loved it. I told Abby there was one time I didn't like it as much as I wanted to, and it was mostly because of like
Seeing it for the 10th time.
no, it
No,
was
we
so-
looked back.
just,
He
like,
didn't have enough margaritas before it.
No, I was over involved in the congruity, how congruous the plot was.
Incongruous.
And then,
Incongruity?
and once I got to watch it knowing what would happen and what wouldn't be explained.
Yeah.
Watching how well it was filmed and sounded and acted, it was just so fucking. It is, I think, one of the, if not the greatest visual horror movie I've ever seen.
It's a really good movie. And I think when you really dial it down, it's also just cool. We didn't talk about it before, but it's like, it's a movie about guilt and repression. And it's really like Jack is, and this is biased a bit from the book, but it's like Jack is really just like losing his fucking mind because he's pathetic and he takes it out. He says at one point about Shelley, he's yelling and she's like, she won't let me forget it about the thing.
Yeah.
She's literally defending him in the most insane battered woman way ever. And that's just like how us humans, you know, it's like the burden is within and you're pretending it's external. All of this, it's just so good. I'm going to give it, I don't know. I'm always scared to go too high. I'm going to give it a 9.2, but it's one of the greatest movies I've ever seen. It's so fucking good. Yeah, I'm going to give it a 9.2.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, this movie, I love this movie so much. For a long time, I considered it my favorite movie. And in fact, it became like my identity for a long time.
I know. I used to be Brendan's thing.
I had a Jack Nicholson poster of him. Here's Johnny, like his head in the door frame. But listen, this movie is again, it's like the maze within the movie. You can go down any pathway and end up in a labyrinth of theories. And I mean, for God's sakes, the moon landing was faked by Kubrick. Was came out of this movie. It's an insane Russian doll situation where there's theories within theories within theories. You can take one still image from this movie and write 100 different thesis papers about it. At 2.5 hours,
2.5 stars.
This movie, there was never a moment where I thought a scene should be cut.
There's never a moment where I thought you were going to get to the point.
The acting's phenomenal. Jack Nicholson's best role, Shelley Duvall, I felt played actually a nice counterpart to it. It's kind of the purity.
Under 2.5 hours, by the way, 226.
226. I'm going to give this movie a 9.9.
Oh,
it transcends the genre of horror. It is a movie that I could put against Gone with the Wind, Casablanca, and even dare
Gone
I
with
say,
the Wind too.
Dare I say? I don't know.
28. Oh, he wants to do it. He doesn't want to start the fight. All right, guys. Thank you so much for coming.
Oh, but anyway, I give it a 9.9. Little tiny fingers.
Wait. I didn't do mine. 9.2 drinks. Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Love you.
Bye.
2 men and a baby.